And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, the State of Pro Wrestling, Game Source, all the great stuff that we provide right there for you. Just go ahead and click that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, follow, or do whatever it is that you can to support us right there on the Pop Culture Cosmos, and also as well all the great radio stations around the world that play us. Cannot thank you enough for supporting us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. On the back end of the show, I will drop for you audio listeners out there. Good conversation TJ Johnson and I had on the evolution of sports games. And do we have some concerns about sports games for gamers out there in the year 2024? He has a lot of concerns and talks to you about it on the back end of the show. But on the front end of the show, I have got the man of true knowledge. He has returned indeed. He is, of course, the mastermind behind the MCU's Bleeding Edge, coming off a couple of great shows that he has actually put out recently, including a fantasy Marvel draft. Wonder how that turned out. Got to go ahead and check out the MCU's Bleeding Edge. And it is the man of true knowledge himself, Jeff Sloboda. Jeff, great to have you back on the show, my friend. We're done talking the Acolyte. I think that's finally now in the rearview mirror for everyone out there. The vitriol, the stuff that went on, the negativity in regards to that. People are now going to probably put it in towards the Skeleton Crew coming up later this year, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Marvel, and after the success, the wild success of Deadpool and Wolverine, which here in the States on Labor Day weekend actually won the box office again. And has won virtually every week since its release, outside of one with Alien Romulus. And I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been interesting to see how it's progressed, but it is now well over $1.2 billion worldwide and $600 million domestically. A great success for Marvel for a R-rated film. Are we in a better place with what's coming up in the world of Marvel?
Well, I don't think Marvel Studios ever could have imagined that their first foray into R-rated filmmaking would be a $1.2 billion success. So I think that you got to give them credit, give credit where it's due, even though, Ryan Reynolds was heavily involved in the process of developing the film, of course. I think it's definitely breathed some life into the MCU soul or whatever, that's been kind of battered and bruised by phases 4 and 5. And I think that there's stuff right now that's in the pipe that's pretty, they're building blocks of restoring the confidence again in the fandom, depending on how well the films are actually executed. The stuff that we have ahead of us, the next 4 or 5 films look like they should be solid. No, I can't, but then again, it's hard to get, to guarantee. I'm not going to guarantee the same success that Deadpool and Wolverine had for Captain America 4.
Well, I will say I am kind of excited for Captain America 4 Brave New World because I think it has those Winter Soldier vibes for me. But before we even get into that for next year, if you don't remember, everyone out there, there is a Marvel product coming later this month to Disney Plus, and that is return of Catherine Hahn in a role that she made very famous. This time it's about her and not WandaVision. It is Agatha all along, a story where she slowly returns to the world of witchcraft, just finally realizing absolutely what happened to her at the tail end of events from WandaVision. But Jeff, let me ask you this. Your thoughts on Agatha all along? Again, Marvel's road on television for me has been very spotty. I'm actually working still on a list of what from top to bottom of my thoughts on the television shows for Marvel. I may keep it until after Agatha all along. We'll see what happens. But again, my friend, what are your thoughts on Marvel television, Disney Plus, and do you ever think they'll actually click with Marvel on television?
Well, the trailers for Agatha Hart, all along you've seen them. They're solid trailers, but the on the television side, on the Disney Plus side, is where a lot of people in the fandom, I believe, feel like things have really suffered with the MCU. It's really been in the series, probably, is where we've seen some of the worst of the MCU, probably. I would definitely agree with that. That probably some of the worst stuff we've seen that's really just been cringy or been tough to swallow. Like for instance, that Echo finale wasn't very good. The She-Hulk obviously had its issues, but I think that this Agatha is being done by that Schaefer guy that did WandaVision. So that's confidence instilling for me. They're doing 9 episodes of it. I don't believe they would put out 9 episodes of something if the product was complete garbage. I just don't believe it. That's again, I've been wrong before with Marvel Studios, I guess, but
And unlike Echo, they're not dumping this out there all as one series, a la old Netflix style, because
no,
they have zero confidence in it. They are doing a 2-episode premiere, but then elongating it out over a week-to-week basis. So you're right. That shows they have some confidence in the series getting over.
Yeah, because I mean, you're putting yourself through that 8-week slog of having your product exposed to YouTube and to the internet, and if the show goes acolyte, to so to speak, right? We already know what happens to that with that situation on YouTube, for instance, right? Like, you get torn apart, you get mangled by the the YouTube crowd out there, that especially the ones in the Star Wars fandom are going to come out and get you. And that's not going to help help out the show and help out the ratings without question. But I think Agatha has promise, and we'll just have to see what happens at this point. Unfortunately, that's where things are at with Marvel Television.
And that's going to be very much up in the air on how it is. I have no real beat. Lately, I've had some real issues with movies and television as far as gauging how well it will do or not do. Alien was one of those. I'm glad it's not been a big hit, though. I'm glad it's been a pretty good hit. Which, again, for Alien, it will actually become one of, before inflation, one of the biggest Alien movies of all time. And in this case, when it comes right down to it, and of course, a little moneymaker for Disney, which is always greatly appreciated, but when it comes to Agatha All Along, I do not know what the fan support will or will not be for this television show. I don't know. As it gets into closer to Halloween, maybe the fact that, it does touch on witchcraft and mysterious type stuff, maybe tinging on a little bit of horror, as best as Marvel will want to do and approach on Disney Plus. Maybe it will attract more viewers, but then again, like you said, we have seen some of the biggest misses by Disney when it comes to Marvel on Disney Plus. Although, again, I think it's also, I want to say that the Marvels and some of the other, I guess for some people out there, the Eternals, I guess I liked it a little bit more than other people did, but I know how bad, I realize how bad it is. I know that there's no future really for the Eternals.
The Eternals was one of the worst MCU films ever made. It's got to be the top 3 worst ones ever. Yeah.
I kind of liked it. I'm sorry. I put it right middle. I'm probably okay when you've got a movie that I put in the middle.
Gerald, everyone has their own tier.
Oh, I know people hate it. I know people
the Infinity Saga.
I know people can't stand it, and I can't. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue for it. I'm not going to argue for it. I just, like I said, for me,
long.
I thought it was.
It's long.
I thought it was like at best. So I thought it was okay according to my ratings, which you can catch on the site popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. My entire site. Now the Marvels was horrible, absolutely horrible. That is the worst Marvels movie I have ever seen. And so Marvel's coming off those misses, which would include the Eternals, which would include Secret Invasion, which would include, all those other things that they've been going back and forth and been very sketchy on in the recent years. Again, they need to become more consistent in what they're doing. And now that they're not producing as many things out there, they've pushed projects back, they've canceled projects, they've actually put things on hold, they've actually timed things out differently. You know about all the drama behind the scenes in regards to Daredevil, in regards to that series being redone again after the first few episodes didn't gel quite as well to Kevin Feige's liking. So they started that back up again. So again, I think they're being more careful about what they're putting out. So I have some more confidence in them in putting out at least better, more appealing things going forward.
I think they realized that they made a mistake when they by overdoing it with Disney Plus, by supplying Disney Plus with wall to wall 365 day a year Disney Plus MCU content to either have to watch or look forward to coming soon, at all times. I think that it oversaturated the Marvel brand in general. It crossed over to the movies, which of course they wanted it to cross over to the movies to have an impact. Well, it did. Unfortunately, the Marvel television stuff, of course, crosses over, so it's dragged on the films a little bit. Deadpool and Wolverine is a great spark, but they really need to come through with Captain America 4, and it shouldn't be that hard. I felt that I definitely detected those Captain America Winter Soldier vibes myself in that first trailer, and especially in the other trailer that came out, the one from Comic-Con. That or D23, whichever one it was.
It was D23, I believe.
Yeah, D23. That one was really good. I like Harrison Ford as Red Hulk. The movie has a lot going on for it. I like the guy that plays the new Falcon. Joaquin Torres. I like Anthony Mackie a lot. He's an OG Avenger as far as I'm concerned. We only have we lost a lot of our OG characters in the MCU. Wanda, Sam Mackie, Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie. We only have certain characters left over that still have been around for the MCU for over 10 years, for instance. And so, I mean, I think that just off that alone and the name Captain America, that brand, the movie will do well. I just can't predict how well it will do financially. It's hard for me to guess.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, 2025, like you said, is shaping up to be quite busy for Marvel. Let's put it this way. When you've got, by the end of 2024, there's still, I believe, on the queue after Agatha All Along, it's an animated series, I believe, Spider-Man Freshman Year, which is now Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the Eyes of Wakanda series. That's also on the slate for late 2024 if they haven't bumped that back. But Captain America Brave New World starts it off on Valentine's Day of next year. Then you've got Daredevil Born Again with its 22 episodes doing a full season run. Not sure I like that planning, because to be able to, in the modern day, at least on streaming shows, to be able to put things out on a 22 episode arc, similar to what you see on a broadcast format, may stretch things thin, but we'll have to see what's going on with that. Then you've got in May, the Thunderbolts on the traditional annual first week of May Marvel release. Kind of interesting. They put that still ahead of the Fantastic Four, but you got the Fantastic Four in late July taking over the Deadpool and Wolverine slot. And we'll see what happens from there with Blade, Ironheart, and then we all know about what's coming up on the horizon with Doomsday and Secret Wars. So very interesting to see what Marvel will go ahead and actually come out with, because I still know that Marvel still has some of these up in arms in regards to that, but we will see definitely what happens when it comes to the Marvel timeline going forward. Once again, it is the man of true knowledge, Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge. It's Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're listening on radio, please go ahead and check out our shows whenever you can, 2 times a week, wherever you get your podcasts, or on this radio station. Truly cannot thank you enough for doing so. And Jeff, I want to go ahead and ask you this. The movie that is the biggest wild card in here, if it ever gets made, and I am certainly hoping is Blade. And I've gone back and forth with several people who think, especially now that Wesley Snipes did his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, they say, "Oh, there's no way Blade can be remade, and or Blade, this new visioning of Blade can be done and done well. Oh, Mahershala Ali can never stand up to Wesley Snipes." That's what I hear. I've heard a lot of that. I disagree. Mahershala Ali is, or at least he was, very much so, one of the most lauded actors leading into this decade. I know little his career has gone as far as he's got a lot still on the plate, but his career, because of the things that went on Blade and the everything up in disarray in regards to production, has kind of put everything a little bit, his career a little bit disarray. But I know he's got some other things on the plate, including the new Jurassic World movie. He is, to me, still one of the best actors in Hollywood. I think if anyone out there, my friend, can pull off a Blade, I believe it's him.
Well, Kevin Feige okayed the Wesley Snipes thing because he knew that it'd just be good advertisement for the Blade brand, which obviously would help the film in marketing purposes.
I still have to see it come out. I still will not believe it until I see a date, a trailer, and yeah.
They'll make it. I don't know when, because really, no one knows at this point. As of right now, I'm not even sure what Marvel Studios' official stance is on the project. The last time I checked,
they've got another writer, their third, fourth, or fifth writer, I believe, on this now.
Oh, Captain America 4 lost their director recently. Just to put that out there. But yeah, with Blade, some of that though has been, from what I understand, and we're not there, so it's hard to know the true details. But a lot of it's been Mahershala on his own. He has a lot of controllative power. He has a lot of control and power in the directorial picks, apparently, and in the script writing and all that. The writer's room and all that, they've given him a lot of carte blanche because of what you've talked about him having, that pedigree in Hollywood, as an Oscar nominee and a winner, obviously, and so we don't know how much of that has been him turning down these directors or turning down these scripts, but obviously something is really off, and it shouldn't be that hard to make a Blade movie. Really, if anything, it should be relatively inexpensive. Like, I guess, can you say inexpensive when you're dealing with millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well, I know one of the things and the directives by Disney for this movie, since it's also going to be an R-rated film, that Kevin Feige has confirmed, is that this movie will have the costs cut down. Comparatively speaking, it's not going to be like a horror budget movie, mind you, from Blumhouse, which is going to be under $20 million. We're still talking about an $80 to $120 million feature film, which again is still slated for November. So we'll see what happens, but it is not going to have the $200 or $300 million budget, but it may not need it, Jeff, because again, the first Blade movie was simply outstanding and is held up. Okay, maybe some of the CGI is not held up, but the performances and the story itself has held up over time and is still good today. So I will say that Blade, I would like to see Blade. I think Blade is the wild card for me in all these upcoming movies. I'm still hoping it holds to that next November release, and I think if it does and it's done well, I think that can just solidify where Marvel's at, possibly the year 2025, if Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and then you've got the Fantastic Four, and then Blade, if they all come out and they all hit, I think you could say, Jeff, that Marvel will be back.
Oh, it'll be a massive, that will make for a massive year without question.
Yeah. That's, I mean, we talked about how Marvel was like spacing out the stuff after, slowing down, trickle bell, but in the actor strike as well, kind of put things back. But 2025, I understand they're not going to have as many things in future years, like for putting out 4 films, which they could possibly do next year. I understand that this is an anomaly in and of itself, but man, Marvel, like you said, could be setting itself up for a really good year next year.
Yeah, I believe 3 is really their sweet spot. That's kind of like where they'd like to be, is probably 3 a year with the films. So I think that it is just coincidental almost that it just happened that we ended up with 4 in 2025. But hey, it's good for the fans, right? That's 4 times to go see a Marvel movie in a year.
I don't think they're burned out anymore. I think this would have been bad if it was 2021, 2022, obviously COVID aside. Because fans were starting to burn out on Marvel, 2023 even, fans were starting to burn out on Marvel because the product itself, but also the sheer saturation of what they're putting out. But I think fans now, coming off the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, are warming up to Marvel once again. So we'll see what happens, my friend.
Most definitely.
The one thing I do want to ask you before we leave, though, there could be one, how should I say, somebody putting a stick in the spokes of this machinery in regards to what's gone on with the Marvel machine for next year, and that's DC with the Superman movie that's coming out next year. I believe it's slated for, and that is also going to be a high profile release next year. Your thoughts on this, because it will be a DC versus Marvel battle once again on the big screen. What is your thoughts on the Superman movie, and how will it affect, or how possibly could it affect the Marvel slate next year?
It's good for Marvel. The DC stuff being successful is good for them because they're coming from the same genre at the end of the day in film, in media. It's the same genre of content, really. Different names attached to directing it, writing it, putting it together, producing it, but it's coming from the same place. So overall, DC doing well is good for Marvel Studios. It's good for their content.
Because this will come out right now. If it stays on its schedule, it comes out 2 weeks before Fantastic Four.
That's okay. That's that. I think you as well as I do with the way that Marvel Studios has been with their schedules and pushing movies back and things like that. There's already been people out there that have already said that they think that the Fantastic Four film could get pushed back. It very well could.
If the Blade movie does not hit its target for November, I could agree with you on that. Although the one thing caveat on that, Jeff, is Deadpool and Wolverine. When did Deadpool and Wolverine come out? Came out, I believe, July 26th, if I'm not mistaken, or let's say late July. It achieved a high level of success. This could be another traditional Marvel release window. And to do that, you would need a movie in its place. You may have to push back the Thunderbolts. And if you're going to push back, what are you going to say? You're going to push back Fantastic Four. If Blade doesn't make its target date and you push back Fantastic Four, I suggest putting Thunderbolts in late July. That late July spot may become the next Marvel.
If they lose Blade, they probably should space out the films just because it will cover, the whole span of the year, with the content, which is obviously ideal. They released this schedule for these movies after the Superman film was released. After that schedule was released, so they were well aware of the Superman film coming out in that window, and clearly they felt okay with that competition at that 2-week mark. That's all I can really say, other than the fact that I'm excited for the Fantastic Four film, and I think it'll really do well.
Another wild card in this that hasn't been mentioned at all. I mean, we mentioned Spider-Man as far as the animated series with Spider-Man Freshman Year, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has been named, and so you'll be seeing that either by the end of 2024 or maybe early 2025. But the Spider-Man from Sony may be of interest to people out there, because by the end of 2025, there's still rumblings, Jeff, that Sony could put out a Spider-Man before the end of 2025. If that's the case, that throws things off even further.
I'm sorry, Gerald. I was playing around with my settings. What was that last part?
That's okay. If a new Spider-Man movie is announced for a 2025 release, if Tom Holland comes back sooner rather than later, this could put things as far as even more into disarray.
Well, I think that it's trying to slot it in between the two Avengers films seems like it would be a good fit. On face value, I guess, right? I would assume that slotting the Spider-Man film, as I understand it, it looks like it's going to end up in a spot somewhere in between the two Avengers movies.
Unless they decide to move it up.
Unless they decide to move it up. Sony pushes out for it to get moved up or something like that, which could happen.
That's why I think Blade is most important. Blade is the most tenuous right now, and if that does not come out and that gets pushed beyond its November release date, then Marvel might shake things up or might give Sony a call to see if they can have that spot instead. So we'll see, my friend. But yeah, just some interesting things. But before we head on out, my friend, a real quick thought: you have more confidence in Marvel now. You're taking a sigh of relief now, coming off Deadpool and Wolverine, about what's up to come for Marvel.
I am for the general fandom, because I do care about the fandom in general. So like for the fandom, I am. But my optimism for the MCU and for Marvel Studios doesn't really wane that hard. I've learned to roll with the punches with the bad releases, the Marvel stuff like that. Once I've gone and watched the film and then I have a chance to sit with it for a while, I go back to trusting Marvel Studios. I just got done reading that first set of books that came out about Marvel Studios on their first 10 years, and really interesting read, right? Like there's a lot of really good information in there, behind the scenes of the production of all the films and all that, So no, I'm happy for the fandom. I'm happy that Deadpool and Wolverine did well, so that there could be some more confidence back for the Marvel brand in general.
Before we head on out, it's cheap plug time, my friend. You've got to tell everyone out there what's going on with the MCU's Bleeding Edge.
Well, basically, we're going to be covering Agatha all along, just like we cover all of the MCU Disney Plus series that come out, and we cover all the movies when they come out and things of that nature usually. But we'll be covering that over on the MCU's Bleeding Edge when it comes out on Wednesdays. I forget what the actual date is of that release. But we just started the Rings of Power on Fridays. On Friday was our first episode review. We did episodes 1 through 3, so we're covering the Rings of Power right now. The show is kind of 50-50 so far through season 1. I don't know if you watched it, but it's okay. We're covering it because we did the first season, so we want to stick with it. But we're watching the Caped Crusader and reviewing that on Mondays right now before we start the Penguin here in about 2 weeks.
We'll find out what's going on with the MCU right there for you at the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Well, Jeff Sloboda, the man of true knowledge, it's always great to have you on. Always great to have you a part of what we're doing. And always great to have you back on right here at the Pop Culture.